Hello there, one and all, and thank you very much for tuning in to episode 569 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, live on YouTube as always. Whether you're watching the live or you're watching the recording, you are very, very welcome indeed. We have some comments. Well, we have two comments from one person, which is fine. It's Valmont1980 who says, "Hello everyone," and hello Mr. P. Hello to you as well. Today I'm wearing for the first time Musc Kublai Khan from Serge Lutens. A strange but intriguing experience in this heat. Okay, well, I don't know where you're based, but yeah, Musc Kublai, I love Musc Kublai Khan. I actually put Musc Kublai Khan in my book. It's my book over there. But yeah, in hot weather, it must be pretty good. The musks must come out really, really well. Ilias is here as well, saying, "Happy Pride, everyone." Absolutely, yes, whether you're marking it in some way, whether you're celebrating. One or two people celebrated it in Budapest, I see. So yeah, well done to them. That was quite a sight, some of those images coming out of Hungary. Dushan is here as well, saying hello. And Valmont says, "Oh, it's me, Alex from Graz." Okay, I didn't... Why... Have I just forgotten that your handle was Valmont, or have you got two handles? I've completely forgot. My brain for remembering people's names is not what it used to be. You're very, very welcome, Alex. Lacking in Depth says, "Hello all, Musc Kublai Khan is a great one, absolutely." Hello from the pits of hell, says Oriana. 42 degrees in Lisbon, happy Pride. Yeah, 42. I know somebody who's in Greece at the moment. Not Ilias. Presumably you're in Greece at the moment, Ilias. Maybe you can vouch for this. And they said that they're not in Athens. They're somewhere sort of 6-hour drive from Athens. And they said it's about 42, 43 degrees at the moment as well, which is pretty hot. I mean, that's quite a temperature for Europe. Tripty says, "Hello everyone, happy Pride indeed. A lovely shirt, Persolaise." Thank you very much. I should have worn the Pride flag colours today. The whole month is Pride month though, right? Am I right? Or is it because tomorrow's the last day is there a specific Pride day? I don't know. Somebody enlighten me. And actually, even though I do have rather a multicoloured wardrobe, I don't think I actually have anything that specifically references the Pride flag colours. I think I need to address this. I feel I need to address this. Was that shirt made out of a curtain, says Dushan. It may well have been, because curtains are made out of fabric and so are shirts. So who knows? Anyway, what have we got in store for you today? We're going to try and do 4 back-to-back videos, because we haven't done a few of those for a while. So we're going to start with a single perfume video review of this new variant of white linen. Very, very interesting. Then we're going to come back with a single perfume review. Then we're going to come back with a showcase of a brand that's been around for a while and that I'm sure a lot of you are aware of, but it is new to me. And then we'll come back with a double review, two perfumes from one brand. So hopefully some of you will be able to, well, all of you will be able to stick around. Keep the comments and the questions coming, and I think we need to get going. So what have we got? What have I got in store for you first? Now this is an interesting one. I feel this will be one of those episodes where we could get very, very easily mired down in context. Now, as you know, on this channel, we love a bit of context, because we think if you're going to take perfumery as seriously as it deserves to be taken, which is to say with a certain level of seriousness, but, stopping short of rocket science trying to bring about world peace type seriousness, then context is important. Context is important in any sort of critical endeavour, and there is a lot of context when it comes to this one. Such a weird choice for an oud fragrance, says Peroli. Yes, and Gavin says, "I'm already drowning in contextual thoughts with regard to White Linen Oud Legacy Collection." I know, but so this is what it is. Brand new, sort of, from Estee Lauder, we have got White Linen Oud Legacy. Now, there is a kind of two-pronged context to this, because of course, as many of you will be aware, white linen started off in 1978 a beautiful, beautiful scent composed by the legendary Sophia Groisman. Last time I checked, its current iteration is in pretty good shape. Easily one of the best perfumes ever to have come out of an American perfume house. Essentially, it was sort of Estee Lauder's take on Chanel No. 5 in the sense that it's a kind of grand aldehydic floral. But I suppose White Linen was a bit more starched, a bit more chaste, a bit more angelic in that sense. So I guess it sort of inadvertently became a kind of bridge between Chanel No. 5 and Chanel No. 22. No. 22 is, of course, the sort of super aldehydic, more angelic, more chaste version of Chanel No. 5. And White Linen did extremely well. I think there were a few flankers. But early last year, early 2024, Estee Lauder released so-called legacy versions of some of their scents. And if you would like to read my thoughts on them, in I think January, February 2024, I posted an article about them on my Substack. You'll see a link to my Substack in the video description, which also included a kind of interview with Frederic Malle, because it was none other than Frederic Malle who curated these legacy versions. And the idea of the legacy Estee Lauder scents, what were they? They were White Linen, Estee, Private Collection, Azuré, and Knowing. The idea behind them was that they were supposed to go back to what the originals were like and recreate them as closely as possible, with the kind of unsaid but pretty blatant statement being that the versions that were currently available in the shops and that were still being sold as White Linen, Knowing, et al. Were not very close to the originals anymore, so go figure. The collection is very expensive. I think you could tell that Frederic Malle had put a lot of heart and soul into them. He enlisted, some of his perfumer friends to make them. So Anne Filippo did a couple, Carlos Benaim did a couple, and Bruno Jovanovic did one. And then, very shortly after that, Frederic Malle left Estee Lauder. Another layer of complication. You will be aware that Estee Lauder purchased and acquired Frederic Malle's own brand several years ago now, but he stayed on. I should imagine he was contractually obliged to stay on for a certain period of time. Anyway, kind of out of the blue, last year, not long after this Estee Lauder Legacy launch, he announced that he was leaving. That left a lot of things up in the air. We've only had one Frederic Malle perfume since he left, or around about the time he left, and that was the Acne Studios collaboration. And people asked as well what was going to happen with the Estee Lauder Legacy collection. Well, what's happened is that we bizarrely have a legacy version of a perfume that never existed anyway, because this is an oud inflected White Linen, and they're calling it Legacy White Linen Oud or White Linen Oud Legacy. But of course there was never a White Linen Oud to start with, and that is problematic, because the geek in me, the completist in me, the purist in me says, well, is this collection going to be about legacy versions of older Estee Lauder scents, or isn't it? Are you allowing yourself now to kind of take the legacy version of White Linen and create a flanker on it? What are you doing with it? You could say that it's reflective of some muddled thinking from the creative forces of Estee Lauder, or you could say to me, stop being such a geek and just go with it and accept the fact that they've done an oud White Linen, which of course I do accept, but I am kind of thinking, so what is this? Are we now going to get a flanker of Legacy Private Collection and a flanker of Legacy Estee? I don't know. What are you folks saying about it? Shahika says, you have reviewed White Linen Legacy. Some say that it smells different from the original. What do you think? Well, go back to the review. I mean, I like... Well, no, you do need to go back to the review because I go into a lot of detail about whether we can even talk with any real authority about what the original, whatever that may be, smells like. That sounds like such a clash, says Ilias. Interesting but bizarre, says Alex Valmont. Feels forced, says Oriana. Gavin says, didn't Chanel do the old perfumes redone for their exclusive ranges and then broaden out? Are they chasing the Les Exclusifs bucks? I mean, you're absolutely right. When Chanel launched Les Exclusifs, they kind of returned to Gardenia and Number 22 and Bois d'Azil and Cuir de Russie, and they also gave us some new ones. But they didn't do Bois d'Azil and then next year here's a Bois d'Azil flanker. That's what makes it odd. Okay. Have you had enough context? Let us smell, because of course the proof is in the smelling. So where's my pre-labeled blotter? I have a pre-sprayed blotter as well, and also I have actually worn this a few times, and I've sort of sprayed it on an unsuspecting Madame Persolaise. So I have got a few things to say about it. Anyway, smart bottle, by the way, I think, but these are so pricey. This comes in at £250, which I think basically means it's pretty much in the same bracket as the other legacy scents. Tripty says perhaps this collection is their version of the high-end line. Oh, absolutely it is them trying to get into the exclusive bracket. Estee Lauder tried that a few years ago with a huge kind of exclusive-ish line, and that bombed. And you can get it now. You can still get some of those scents on their website and also in their outlet shops, which are called the Cosmetics Company, aren't they? Anyway, at the 11-minute mark, we're smelling the perfume. I get so many comments from people saying, blah, 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 too much talk. And then I think to myself, well, what do you want me to do? All I can do is talk about this stuff. You're not just going to surely watch me smelling blotters. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that those of you who've tuned in appreciate the chat. Gavin says more preamble about the amount of and I know that's getting very meta. I shouldn't do preamble about preamble, should I? Okay, let's smell. Right. So this is where it gets more bizarre, but also more interesting. Because Eric says, who the hell said that? Well, various people. I mean, you know, not you may find it surprising, but not everybody loves this channel, right? Anyway, you get the legacy version of White Linen, which means that you get a very, very lush, very grand, and quite floral, aldehydic floral. I mean, the emphasis in the legacy version is very much on the florals, very much on the rose. And then at the same time, as though, you know, this kind of floral aldehydic thing is happily going along in its lane, and then suddenly this other kind of car pulls up and goes, oh, do you mind if I just kind of meld myself onto you? Seriously, that is what it feels like. You have got you've got an oud note. The Estee Lauder are very open about the fact that Frederic Malle has sort of curated and created this. When he did it, how he did it, I don't know. Whether this is still made by Carlos Benaim, I don't know, because Carlos Benaim made the legacy version of White Linen. I wish I did know. But, of course, if we're talking about Frederic Malle and oud, the next question that comes up is, what sort of oud is it? It's not the really, really kind of super animalic, super barnyard, all other ouds can go home oud of the first oud that he did for his own line, which was called The Night, which was kind of basically like sort of taking Portrait of a Lady and putting oud on it. But it's also not that kind of, to my nose, quite harsh, quite rough, quite abrasive, quite coarse. Do you get that I don't like it much? Almost fruit-inflected oud of Promise, which is my least favourite of the Frederic Malle ouds. That leaves us with Moon and Hope, doesn't it? And is there Dawn as well? I think Hope is the one that I'm the least familiar with. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever smelt it, because that's the latest one. Dawn was another one that for me went into the category of doesn't quite work, but Moon I thought was interesting. And so, what kind of oud is it? It's not super animalic, it's not super stinky, it's not super skanky, but it is very, very woody. It is quite dark. It's quite authoritative, and I suppose maybe it's got a touch of a kind of slightly resinous, slightly medicinal feel. But it's constantly running in parallel with this version of White Linen. as I say, I've worn it a few times, and I kind of thought, okay, are they going to merge? Or are they just going to kind of keep going side by side with each other? This whole thing of two ideas running parallel is something that Frederic Malle explored with Jean-Claude Eleanor a few years ago when they did Rose and Leather, Rose et Cuir, which was very much just seemed to have this like rose running on one lane and right next to it the leather, and the point almost seemed to be that you were kind of getting two perfumes and you were kept looking for the bridges. Now, this is what you buy for your mum on Father's Day, says, who's that? My pipe can. I don't get it. It sounds kind of funny, but I don't get it. Please explain. Valmont says, this channel serves the best intellectual thoughts and background information on the whole. Oh, thank you very much. The compliment. I'll take the compliment. Keep the compliments coming, but maybe do them. We love the preambles. Well, I can't do it any other way. If I'm going to tell you about the perfume, I sort of need to start there and go... Ilias says, dark white linen, the scent that came out as a sparkly, fresh, easygoing concoction back in the day. I sense creative confusion. Was there a dark white linen? Are you being serious? Was there a dark white linen? So, I'm kind of wearing it and going about my business. Each time I spray it, I have to tell you, in the interests of fairness and the interests of completeness, I have to tell you that Madame Persolaise has gone, whoa, what is that? She's not especially partial to aldehydic scents, but she does love an oud and she does love rose, and this fills the space. It's very, very, very diffusive. It's very, very grand. I mean, and it is actually quite beautiful in that way. And then it hit me what this actually reminds me of. And if somebody knows, somebody who lives maybe in Asia or in the Middle East, if somebody could kind of give me a bit of technical information about what I'm about to describe, I would be very, very grateful, because it suddenly hit me what this really reminds me of. If you go to Dubai, to the other Emirates, if you go to the souks there, I smelt similar things as well when I went to Mumbai. There are particular types of Arabian style type scents that you get. They tend to be pretty cheap, except maybe in some cases where brands think, oh, we could probably charge 5 times as much for this and get away with it. Where it does feel as though they've taken a kind of classic oud base, which is sort of rose leather oud, not with an especially pungent, stinky animalic oud, and they've put a huge slug of aldehydes on top. You get a lot of those sorts of things as well when you go into the shopping malls in Dubai and you buy some of the bahurs, the incenses to burn. It's a very, very Dubai smell. And how many minutes ago was it that I sprayed this? About 5 or 6 minutes ago. It only takes about 10 minutes or so to get into that, oh my goodness, this is a typical Dubai bahur scent. And so then, of course, you think, this must have been done deliberately. It must be Estee Lauder thinking, we need to get back into the oud game. They tried getting into the oud game with some of their Aramis perfumes a few years ago. They also did their perfume... what was it called? The perfume calligraphy was Aramis, but they also did some in square bottles, which I think are long gone. But they were very much for the Arabian market, and they worked quite well. I think for what they were quite decent. And this feels like playing that Arabian card. Now, whether actually it is cheap to make, I have no idea. As I say, if you know the kind of smell from like Sharjah Souk, or from, the perfume corner of the Gold Souk in Dubai, if you know the kind of smell I'm describing, please let me know if I'm right, that it just feels like it's a lot of aldehydes with a kind of pretty standard oud base. But despite having said, oh, Dushan, that's very, very kind, thank you very much. If it contains powder, it's for certain weather. I love Estee Lauder with a base of leather. It's very, very kind of you to do that, Dushan, by the way. You didn't have to, but thank you very much. It kind of works. It kind of works. Now, let's see what the brand says about it. This is a very brief blurb. There's one bit of the blurb that actually I think is hilarious. So they say, the cinematic expanse of white linen legacy intensified. Seductively pulsing with the magnetic richness of oud, more indulgent than ever with its notes of eloquently paired oud and rose, white linen oud legacy is abundantly infused with natural essences, elegantly concentrated, exquisitely pure. A heart of precious natural rose, blending both rose oil and rose absolute, centers the fragrance, illuminating and elevating the profound intensity, yada yada yada. Reimagined by Frederic Malle, so there he is, his name right there. This oud perfume builds on the foundational notes of vetiver and amber, in Mrs. Lauder's original white linen. Sumptuous jasmine and luscious violet expand the complex arrangement. The result is memorably rich, immediately intoxicating. And then this is the bit that gets me. They go through the notes, okay? So top note, they say aldehyde. Middle notes, rose and jasmine. Dry down notes, oud accord. Okay, thanks for telling us it's an accord, which is basically their way of saying not natural oud. That's fine. Oud accord. And then it says amber notes, and in brackets it says mainly labdanum. I don't think I've ever seen a notes list like that that says it's ambery, but it's mainly labdanum. You think, why didn't you just say it was labdanum? Vetiver, cypriol, and olivinum. And Mitrakai says, "I'm not sold on this." No, if you're not sold, then you know, don't be persuaded by me, if you see what I mean. It is expensive. Pre-sprayed white linen oud legacy. The oudness kind of fades away, and what you get is a kind of dark, to use Elias's term, a dark white linen, which is no bad thing. A dark number 22, a sort of negative image of number 22. You know, I haven't seen Stranger Things, and I don't know if what I'm about to say is a spoiler, but I've kind of picked up enough from the ether to know that there are Stranger Things sort of works on parallel ideas, right, and sort of one world mirroring another world. So maybe this is the white linen from Stranger Things. I don't know. Beige linen, says Mitra. No, it's not beige. It's not beige. It's definitely dark. It is not beige. And I think actually the fact that it's quite uncompromising. You know, it doesn't just try to sneak the oud in. It just rams the oud right next to it. Johnny says, "Why have you not seen Stranger Things?" with 12 question. Because I don't actually watch a huge amount of TV. I'm sorry, and I have a personal problem with series that never end. I'm not on board with this idea of series that if somebody gives me a limited series and says, you know, there are like 12 episodes and the story finishes, then I might go with it. But something that carries on forever, I just cannot do it. I can't do it. Oh, but it ends this year. Says, okay, well, when it ends, I might see how many episodes there are, and maybe I'll watch it to get to the Kate Bush bit and to find out if I was right about things being paralleled. Okay. So, I think that's about it. As much as we should say about this one. Interesting. Very, very, very on the edge as regards whether it kind of works or not. Because there are times when it feels like it's two perfumes that don't quite meet, but then there are times when it does work. But I think top marks for bravery, and certainly top marks for conceptual confusion. What is going to happen next with this range is anybody's guess. You know, I thought maybe we might have got a Legacy Cinnabar. I thought we might have got a Legacy Beautiful. That would be interesting. And even though it's not actually that old in the Estee Lauder catalogue, I would love to see a Legacy Beyond Paradise just so that Beyond Paradise comes back. But no, maybe next we're going to get an, I don't know, Legacy Azure Poudre or something like that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this one. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't enjoy the banter, please find another channel. There are others available. Be kind to yourself, and do consider subscribing to this channel, and also make sure you click on the little bell to get notifications about new videos. I will be back in a few minutes with something new from Nikolai. See you in a bit. Bye now.